Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Our Lives Beginnings and Always. We're still on the Derek DLC. Our last moment was siblings moment. So, before we get started, I want to thank all 184 subscribers I have now. Thank you so much for subscribing to my channel. Really appreciate it. I appreciate your support. If you want to show more support towards what I do for you guys, entertaining you guys, I'd really appreciate it if you guys could go to my Patreon account and please become a Patreon contributing member. All the funds that go there go directly to charity. I don't see a penny of it. It just goes directly to charity that I choose from. And you would be doing a good thing for the community of charities that need the funds. And you can find the link to my Patreon within the description area. Also, for those of you who want to receive copies of uncensored videos that I record, you must become a member either on my $9 tier or my $25 tier. Those two are set up for adult content. So don't argue that you can get it cheaper over at on the makers of Our Life Beginnings and Always. Now, I don't know about Camp Buddy because I'm not on their Patreon, so I don't really know much about the makers of Camp Buddies. I'm not on their Patreon. I am. However, I am a member of the makers of Our Life Beginnings and Always. I'm on their $10 Patreon, and that is their adult content Patreon set up on there. So don't argue and say that you can get it lower than that. It's not true. I've checked with them and they told me yes, I have to be on the $10 tier to get adult content from Our Life. Okay, so don't come on my comments and argue about that. I'm not having that. It's BS. I'm not having it. I'm going to run my Patreon the way I see fit, and this is the way it is. That if you want to receive adult content, you need to be either $9 tier or the $25 tier. And $9, that's less than $10. Hello, jeez, really? Okay. And once you become a member on my either $9 tier or the $25 tier, you can go to the comment section and post your email address so that I can send them the copies to you via email. This is, of course, until I can figure out how to download all my videos from my flash drive to those tiers, of course, the $25 and the $9 tier. So, with that in mind, we're going to get started today. Like I said, we're still on Our Life. We're on life today. We are doing we've done responsibility, we've done lemonade, and we've done siblings. So let's do Boardwalk. Soiree will be the last one that we're gonna do, and then we'll go to and then the summer ended, which will continue on with more moments of the Derek DLC's stuff. So let's get started with Boardwalk. And I'm gonna grab some water real quick. So excuse me. Yeah, it was only early morning, but The day was already buzzing with excitement. Your whole family was gathered together with all 5 Swarers in their cozy living room. Maybe I can turn the music up just a little bit. Let's see. No. Okay. Turn it up just a tad. There we go. And I forgot to put it on full screen, so there we go. Today you were all making a trip out to Boardwalk Set Park. It was a regular enough outing for Derek's family, but it would be your first time going. The boardwalk was a few hours away, and it was even farther than setting out from Sunset Bird. That's why the adults decided on the meet up here at the Soares' apartment instead of gathering at the boardwalk itself. It gave your moms a little break from driving, and everyone got their last chance to run for the bathroom. You would be leaving very soon. While you waited for the trip to officially start, you sat on the couch with your hands in your lap. For a few minutes now, you'd try to keep track of what the group gathered around the kitchen counter were up to. Phone. Sorry about that. Keeps doing that beeping noise. I don't know how to shut it off either. There, I think I shut it off. Hopefully. Oops. Sorry about that. Back here. Come on, load. Load. Really? Wow. Okay. What? Okay, here we go. Okay. Never mind. Sorry about that. Elizabeth, your moms, and the Miss Soares were all busy making preparations for what could tell. Meanwhile, Mr. Soares had his hands full rounding up his 2 youngest kids. It seemed that they were taking an anti-shoe stance that morning. And in Nicholas's case, he needed to be talked into wearing a shirt too. The cushion next to you, Derek was pumped for what the boardwalk had to offer. He was rambling a mile a minute about all the fun stuff he couldn't wait to show you. Okay, what do we choose here? you're excited about it. Yeah. Bouncing on your leg, you struggled to contain your energy. You were just as eager to experience everything he described. This journey was also the first time your and Derek's families were doing a big activity together. You couldn't believe it originally when the adults went through with organizing the trip.
Let's go.
Kids, join us in the kitchen. It's time to pack your treat bags.
Cool.
Sitting on the couch, you didn't have the faintest idea what Miss Soros meant, but you were summoned, so you followed Derek's lead. He turned to say something over his shoulder. He guessed that line might have been confusing to a newcomer. The snack bags are what we do for larger trips. Me, my brothers, and you and Elizabeth too. We get to fill a little plastic baggie with any sweets and stuff we want. It's supposed to be for eating during the hours long drive, but no one really cares when we snack. It's just so we have something if we need it. I like that. It's really nice.
Same.
I think so too. It's great to have on hand. As you reach the kitchen, Elizabeth breezed past you with your moms following at a more relaxed pace. Derek raised a skeptical brow and pointed in her direction with his thumb. Doesn't she want a bag? Elizabeth stopped and spun around on her heel. Surprised, Derek pulled his hand back to his side. Elizabeth's lips curled into an all too pleased smirk.
So what?
You heard Miss Soares. She called for the kids to come. Ma shook her head at Elizabeth's taunting display. Your sister stepped forward and held up a Ziploc bag that you hadn't noticed before. I already got mine while you were getting things set up for the rest of you. Her baggie was full of dried fruits and chocolate chips. She teasingly dangled it in your face and then in Derek's. Hang on, when I get done, I'm gonna have to get something chocolate or something. Gives me a craving, man. Oh, very mature, Elizabeth. You're not one of the kids at all. You smirked at her, you stuck your tongue, you shook your head, you rolled your eyes. You just stared at Elizabeth? You just stared at her. Yeah. It didn't take Elizabeth long to realize that she wasn't going to get a rise out of you. She pouted and withdrew her treat baggie. Yeah, nice try, Elizabeth. We're not buying your BS. Just because you're big sister doesn't mean you get to pick on us. After that, she left the kitchen and plopped down in your old spot on the couch. Your mom's joined her, putting Elizabeth in the middle. Ma confrontantly patted Elizabeth's leg. Glancing back towards the kitchen, George and Nicholas were finally dressed, and they danced ahead of you. They excitedly crowded around their mom's legs. Now, don't forget that bag actually has to be able to close for it to count. She began passing out baggies to her youngest, and then Miss Suarez turned to you and winked. That's my one rule for the treat bags. But other than that, feel free to go crazy. Nicholas and George took that as their cue to rush up to the counter and lined with tasty options stared stuffing their bags. Miss Suarez handed you and Derek your own plastic baggies. Now that it was in your hand, you realized that it was the smallest Ziploc bag size. There was no way that you were going to get a little bit of everything. From my experience, you can't fit about 4 handfuls of stuff before it starts getting too tough to close. I'll have to strategize then. Thanks. The younger boys swiftly finished selecting their road trip treats. George's bag closed easily, while Nicholas's was proving a challenge to squeeze shut. I just remembered I forgot to put up my sign. I'll be right back. I mean, not that it matters, but they come knocking, whatever. Let's see. Okay, the younger boys swiftly finished selecting their road trip treats. George George's bag closed easily, while Nicholas's was proving a challenge to squeeze shut. He's the kind of kid who probably would have overstuffed his bag. The plastic was ballooned out on the sides, entirely full of cookies and candy. His brow pinched as he struggled with the zip. To everyone's surprise, Nicholas got to seal, and he proudly held the bag up for his mom's inspection. Impressed, she nodded. Don't forget to take a water bottle too. We don't want to lose anyone to dehydration today. The two boys held their prizes tightly, grabbed the water bottles off the edge of the counter on their way out of the kitchen. It was your turn now at the buffet, and the spread was delicious. Let's see, what would I pick? Peanuts, yeah. Sunflower seeds, yeah. Almonds, yeah. Granola. Enjoy. Humming happily, you ran your hand across the side of the plastic baggie. You were grateful for your haul and proudly showed it to Derek. He gave you a thumbs up.
I gotcha.
Variety is a spice of life. He closed his bag, and you realized that it was completely full of a bunch of different things. Chuckling, you gently poked the straining side of his plastic baggie. Yes, it is. Derek leaned across the counter for the water bottles. He slid one over for you to take and grabbed one for himself too. Okay, I'll close up the packs then. We can leave this out for here for now.
Is that fine?
We don't have any more time to lose. Are we all ready? Several voices called back, answering yes. Miss Suarez raised an eyebrow and walked out of the kitchen. No one needs to go potty? Nope.
No.
I don't have to go potty.
Good.
Good. Anyone have questions before we go? She put her hands on her hips and glanced around the apartment. Mr. Suarez raised his hand, and just as he caught her eye, like to know how we will arrange the rides. Like to know how we will arrange the rides. There's room for 5 in the back of our car and room for 3 in the Prince car.
What do you think?
There's room to switch who is bringing who if there's a want for it.
Oh,
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up. Elizabeth and Chippy are welcome to ride with us, or Derek can feel free to go with Pamela and Nolani. Nicholas and George are staying in our van, though. Frustrated, both smaller boys pouted at their exclusion. George's jaw clenched as he crossed his arms. I'm not a baby. Why do I have to stay in the van? I'm not a baby. You're younger than George. Nicholas, you know you still need a booster seat. We can't put you in their car. Mrs. Suarez chuckled at Nicholas's angry grumbling as he passed by into the kitchen, aiming to pick at the remaining snacks. Miss Suarez sighed in a tickled but still long-suffering way. Dan and I need you there to stay awake for such a long drive. Can you two please keep us company on the car ride? Releasing a deep breath, George nodded. He knew this wasn't the day his mom was going to relent. Nicholas, on the other hand, continued to pout. Okay, Mom. Well, what do you think, Lonnie?
that's fine.
Either way, it's fine with me. It's up to the kids to decide which they'd prefer. I'll stick with Mom's. She then curiously shifted her attention to you. In the corner of her mouth, pulled a smirk because she knew that you and your friend were the ones that whole decision was for. Derek leaned close to you, cupping a hand to the side of his mouth, so only you could hear him. Chippy, what are you thinking? Derek should ride with us. Well, if that's alright. If he's alright with that. Yeah, I think so. Your mom's reassuring nods gave you the confidence to find what Derek thought about your bold statement. His skin seemed a shade pinker, but he scratched the back of his neck and beamed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. His delight flattered as Nicholas darted across the room. He slightly stared with a big sad eyes.
It's okay.
Sorry, Nico. We'll be back together at the Boardwalk real soon. I promise. Promise? Derek patted the top of his brother's head, and the boy sighed. There was still a sourness clinging to his expression, but he didn't seem as defeated anymore.
Let's go.
Okay, now that that's settled, we'll see you there. Oh, hold on. One last thing. Miss Suarez went over to your mom's and quickly went into some last-minute advice on the directions. While you waited, you noticed out of the corner of your eye that Miss Suarez moved on from nibbling at the snacks. Instead, you caught him passing George and Nicholas an extra cookie each. Genuine cheer came back to both of their expressions. They were thrilled about the secret cookies that Nicholas' bitterness over the car ride and George's frustration over being babied were both sweetened out. And that was that. Snacks and drinks were set. No one needed to go potty, and the rides were arranged. Directions were obtained, and it was finally time to get the trip started. The two families left the condo behind, chattering with eagerness for the day's activities. At the parking lot, the group split up to get into their different cars. This is going to be fun. Elizabeth automatically went to claim her usual seat, but you stopped her. She pouted, but climbed back out and impatiently tapped her foot on the ground.
What?
Did you forget we have company? On autopilot, Ma slid behind the steering wheel with ease, and Mom hopped into the front seat. It wasn't until they were buckled in that they both realized that the back seat was oddly still empty. What's the holdup? We have to decide the seats.
No worries.
No way, Brad thought. The middle seat, the middle's calling me a name. I'm the third wheel anyways. Chewing at the bottom of her lip. There wasn't any more time left to lose, so you didn't argue with him. Elizabeth happily climbed into the car and took her usual spot. Excuse me. This worked out perfectly. Derek settled into his chosen spot and sat up perfectly straight. You climbed in after him, apprehensive. that you and your sister ended up in your usual places at opposite ends of the car. Are we ready now? We're buckled. Roger that. We'll have you all free and having fun in no time. Thanks for letting me know, for letting me join the ride.
Aww.
That's no trouble at all. We love to have you as a guest. The second Ma was done pulling the car out, a wide grin hooked her lips. Excitedly, she shimmied her shoulders as she drove. I read about our destination recently, and it sounded just lovely, so I'm so happy you're doing this today.
Uh-huh.
That's an understatement, if I ever heard one. Lonnie studied up on this place like it was her job. Mom teasingly twisted to deliver that last part to the three of you in the back, directly giggling. Ma shrugged. Can you blame me? I don't want to miss anything.
I get it.
I understand that. There's just so much stuff to see and do, and it's all packed into that one place. That's impressive. It'll be a good day then. Well, I don't want any spoilers. I want to see what's there when we get there.
There.
Alright, Elizabeth. I won't say anything. Does anyone want music? Depends on whose turn it is to pick. How about we let Derek have a turn?
Oh,
that's nice of you, Miss Prince. Elizabeth gasped in surprise, and Derek awkwardly fiddled with his fingers in his lap. She childishly stuck her tongue out, but he wasn't bothered by her antics at all. Derek shrugged it off and thought hard about how he could answer. He wasn't going to squander this opportunity. Pressing his mouth into a hard line, Derek peeked over to your direction. You gave him a tiny wave, and he leaned closer, whispering like you two were having a team huddle. I'm not sure what call to make. What do you be good to do? What do you be good to do here? How about some alternative? Yeah. Cool. Let's go with that then. Hey, I thought this was Derek's choice, not Chippy's. Sorry, Elizabeth, but I rule that it's allowed. Picking something for someone else is perfectly fine in my book.
fine.
Elizabeth frowned. She shifted her focus to something out of the window and pressed her back against the seat. Sorry about her. A tiny amused smile tugged at the corner of Derek's mouth, and then a laugh escaped him. He tried to hide it with the palm of his hand, but it was too late. She takes not getting her way, just like George does. Nicholas would have started yelling by now. Before you could wonder if Elizabeth was even still listening, she rolled her eyes on cue, but surprisingly she kept her lips sealed shut this time. Elizabeth then pulled out her baggie of snacks and popped a few cranberries into her mouth. She grabbed another handful to nibble while you thought about your own baggie. You saved all your snacks for later. Resting your hand back, you had a hunch that these snacks would be a lifesaver once your stomach started growling later. You noticed that Derek didn't touch his Ziploc bag of snacks at all. He continued to twiddle his fingers and sit quietly. The rest of the ride went by with your moms filling the time chatting about current events while Elizabeth just stared out the window, and all the while the music played on. And here we are in the same old parking lot that we always wind up in, especially in the original moments that we did with Cove. It's like they use the same parking lot for everything that they go to. It seems like. Can't you guys change it up a little bit? Hint, hint. I mean, really. Oh, whatever. Both families pulled into the parking lot, and the kids excitedly bounced out of the cars. The parents cheerfully waved at each other as the groups closed the distance between them. Next to you, Derek braced for impact as his younger brother bolted straight ahead, aiming right for him. Over the moon to be reunited. Nicholas tightly wrapped himself around his big brother. Hey, I missed you too. Missed you. Derek managed to untangle his siblings' limbs enough so he could bend down and give Nicholas a hug. The 6-year-old eventually released his legs in full so they could walk hand in hand back to their family. With everyone regrouped, the families strolled into the boardwalk. Your eyes widened. The place was more amazing than you'd imagined. Oh wow. This reminds me of Santa Monica Pier. Yeah, this reminds me of Santa Monica Pier. I've been there before. It was like you stepped into a bright world of color. There were shops displaying various beach towels and boogie boards, decorated with other popular cartoon characters or tropical flowers. I'll be right back. I'm gonna get my heater in here and turn it on so it don't get too cold. Okay, I'm back. No. Chair. Clothing stalls had racks of sunglasses, cover-ups, and swimwear in every pattern imaginable. Ahead you can make out the colorful turfs of stuffed animals from the prize boards. Darts, ring, toss, skee ball, and more waited further down the boardwalk. Music filled the air, but when you listened closely, you could make out so much more. There was various cheers and shouts of victory, joy, and fear. The screams had to be coming from the massive wooden roller coaster that towered beyond the stalls. From what you could tell, already this boardwalk was easily 5 times the scale of the entire shopping street in Sunset Bird. You loved it. It was exhilarating taking the scope of the Boardwalk in. You were going to implode if you didn't start exploring soon. The group began navigating down the wooden boards. Miss Soares hastily grabbed onto Nicholas's arm for her keepsake. Just in time, too. The bustling mood of the area had Nicholas raring to go. He wanted to see and play and explore every inch. Unfortunately, the 4 parents were just as energetic as the hyper 6-year-old. With an affectionate shake of her head, Miss Soares shrugged to hold on to Nicholas's tiny hand as he attempted to sprint ahead. Irene, why not let the children go?
What?
Huh?
Will that be fine?
This child here and the rest of them, I'm sure they'd rather enjoy the park on their own and at their own pace. They'd be safe with each other. She carefully weighed the scenarios in her mind, while Nicholas was too busy trying to forcibly move her forward to notice the important conversation happening. Your mom shared a glance. It'd be alright. It'd be alright I'd be alright with that, as long as nobody left the boardwalk. It's large, but not too large.
Alright.
The kids are getting older and they've earned a little freedom of all-seeing eyes. Okay, adults and kids get to have their own day at the boardwalk. You caught both Elizabeth and Derek perked up. This was clearly a sign of a perfect day ahead for the two. Then Miss Suarez passed Nicholas off to her hand for a moment. She motioned for the other kids to circle closer to her.
No more.
No more treats for Nicholas. He's had enough candy and cookies for the day. I'm counting on you to keep to that. Mr. Suarez over there can't be trusted.
Oops.
He stood up straighter and looked away from his wife, pretending that he had no idea what she was talking about. Her knowing smile cracked into a light-hearted laugh. He admired the way her eyes sparkled, teasing her husband. She moved her attention back to the rest of you, and both George and Elizabeth gave her confident nods.
I'm on it.
Me got this, Mom. Derek answered with an added thumbs up. Miss Suarez probably beamed, letting her gaze go between her boys. Derek's right. We've got this. Oh, speaking of getting things, I have some money on hand for me and my brothers. Will you and Elizabeth be able to buy ride tickets and knickknacks or any of that sort of stuff? I doubt the pocket change I have is gonna be enough for anything. I remembered my wallet. You're confidently put your hands on your hips. Unimpressed, Elizabeth rolled her eyes. Good for you.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. We were going to spend money on you too today. Anyways, so there's no harm if we let you have it. Besides, we don't get to go on trips like this every day. Go a little wild. Exactly. We want you to be able to do things here. Mom dug into her purse, then she pulled out a handful of bills. She carefully counted out $15 and handed it to Elizabeth. Your sister was unimpressed at the amount of recounted the bills herself. Mom handed you your own $15 next, and you quietly chuckled to yourself. You couldn't help but think about how it probably would have been 20 if Mr. Holden was there. Yeah, probably. Thanks, Mom.
Thanks.
Thanks, Moms.
All right.
We're set then. We'll meet again here at 8 p.m. in front of this front stall. Miss Suarez took her youngest arm and crouched down to his level. She brushed some stray hairs out of his face. Go and stay with your brothers today. Be good for them. With an eager nod, Nicholas bolted over to Derek and clinging to his jeans. Derek laughed at the sudden weight and put his hands firmly on the younger boy's shoulders just in case if he decided to run off. The two sets of parents disappeared in the crowd, moving towards the nearby stores. Standing on your tippy toes, you caught your moms waving goodbye one last time before they were completely out of sight. Elizabeth spun in a circle, spotting all the things she might want to try. She must have deemed the Boardwalk to be cool because she was cheerier by the second. Eventually, her gaze turned to you and the Suarez brothers, and it was clear that her daydreams crashed back to reality. Next to her, George rocked up to his tippy toes and then back down. Catching your eye, he stopped, nervously inched a little bit closer to Derek. It must feel awkward for a little kid to have two new additions to what was usually a special family affair. You offered him a smile, but he tried not to stare at him. You were so eager to get going already. The clock was ticking and you didn't want to miss a single activity. Derek awkwardly took a couple large steps forward. His strides were wobbly as Nicholas held into him tighter, but Derek was ultimately unfazed. Okay, we should start the day, right? The face painting stall is up here near the front.
Yeah!
Face painting. George brightened with that notion, and Nicholas took Derek as hard as he could without shaking himself off. Derek's grin widened as he laughed at his brother's delight. Yeah, let's go.
So immature.
Face painting? Are you serious? Nicholas was too absorbed with thoughts of paint to notice her attitude, but George's joy vanished instantly. You could pinpoint the exact second Elizabeth remembered how much younger Derek's siblings were. Elizabeth uncrossed her arms, feeling a bit rotten. She cleared her throat and broderly tried to pull back on her visible distaste. I don't need one. However, Of course, we can go over to that stall. Anyone who wants to do it should. That's great. Honestly, there's lots of time to do tons of things, so it's not a big deal. If sometimes it isn't what you want to do, right? His green stare hardened. He directed the statement at both the youngest and the oldest member of the crew. Elizabeth snorted, displeased that a kid like Derek was acting like he was in charge. But Derek wasn't in his respectful guest mode, which is what Elizabeth usually saw of him in the neighborhood. Derek was entirely in his eldest brother role. He kept a stern stare on her for another moment before shifting to you. Are you right with letting my brothers get their faces painted? You can too if you wanna. It's actually a lot of fun. I don't mind going, but I don't want to get painted either. That's fine, Chippy. You'll be there for moral support, right, guys?
All right.
Right. Before anyone moved, Derek cheerfully removed Nicholas' hands from his pants and took hold of the young boy's hand instead, like his mom had done before. Derek cheerfully pointing ahead with his free hand.
Let's go.
Derek led the way for your group. You followed his line of sight to the row of shops and spotted a large, colorful umbrella. As you approached, you noticed the two open chairs under the shade of that umbrella. One for the artist and the other for the person being painted. Next to it was a canvas posted with a collage of photos. The examples showed off cheeks dotted with that Tyruses, sparkling gold stars shooting over temples of peace signs and a whole rainbow of butterflies. Skulls and spiders were options for kids who wanted to get their face painted and still look tough. You peeked at the painting tools and the mirror on the wheeled counter. The artist appeared to be a teen just out of high school or maybe in college. Many of the stalls you passed had younger people running them. The artist eyed your group carefully in return. Hello. Hi, welcome. I'm Xavier. Would you like me to paint your face today?
Definitely.
Yes, please. Xavier went over to and popped down on one of the chairs. Derek nudged George towards the other. Do you want to go first? George hesitated and chewed at his bottom lip. But he wasn't sure until he realized no one else moved to take the open seat. He seized the opportunity and sat down. What can I do for you?
Okay.
I want a football. Right here. Without missing a beat, George pointed to his forehead. Elizabeth huffed quietly at the conversation, but Xavier gave a serious nod. Sorry about that. I can do that, no problem. The artist lightly brushed George's bangs aside and began to work. Next to you, Derek's brow furrowed instantly as he studied the picture of college of options. What's up, Derek? But Derek continued quietly mull things over. He pressed a hand to his chin and sighed. Nicholas will get what I get. I'm not sure what to get because of that. He doesn't like soccer as much as George. Likes football, so that's probably not the best choice. I could get a car for obvious reason, but Nicholas also really loves rainbows. And he does already have cars on his shirt. Yeah, it's sweet that he loves rainbows. Let him have one. Chuckling, Derek shook his head at your enthusiasm. He raised his hands in surrender.
Alright.
Alright. I'll get a rainbow. Weird. It's like right between his two eyebrows. Oh well. He's a kid. What are you gonna do? George's football didn't take long to finish at all. He got up with a delighted grin and tried to tip his head enough to see the painting without a mirror. He couldn't, but that didn't put a damper on his fun. One of his hands hovered around the football, and you knew that he was fighting the urge to poke at the wet paint. Derek slid onto the customer chair next. Nicholas leaned his hands on the edge of the seat and instantly watched the artist get to work. As the painting took shape, the smile on Nicholas' face grew. He gasped loudly in amusement the second he finally figured it out. Well, that's cool. A rainbow on the cheek. That's pretty cool. Artist probably added the finishing touches, but when addressed the youngest sorors instead, Xavier twiddled their paintbrush. Now, what do you think? It's awesome. Just what I like to hear. You're good to go then.
Thanks.
Thank you. Derek took one last glance at himself in the mirror and hopped off the chair. He pointed at the ocean. He pointed at the open seat with his thumb. Your turn, Nico. And Nicholas climbed onto the chair with a pinched brow. Once he settled, he sat up tall like a big boy. Hello, what can I do for you today? A rainbow. But your brother already got that. Xavier's gaze instantly went back to the piece they just finished on Derek. He immediately put together what was happening. That's a great idea. Let's get started. Nicholas nodded and then put all of his mental energy into holding still. You weren't sure how long the 6-year-old could keep that up before he started to squirm. Glancing over at George one more time, Derek kept most of his attention on his littlest brother without moving his gaze. He tilted his head in your direction. So, Chippy, be honest with me. How do I look? You look great. Derek slowly shook his head and then tried to hide his snickering with his hand. You crossed your arms and let your gaze trail over the dying paint on his cheek. Drying paint on his cheek, okay. I'm serious. Thanks. That's a relief. After you both settled in to watch Nicholas get painted to match stroke by stroke, Xavier started with the outer lines, then filled the center of the drawing. It wasn't long before it was complete. You're set. Oh, he got on the other. Nicholas got on the other side of his cheek. Unlike what Derek got. So yeah, it's cool. It's cute. Nicholas jumped out of his chair with a brand new rainbow adorning his cheek. He rushed over to rejoin his brothers, excitedly pointing at the painting. Welcome back, Nico. Look what I got. Nice.
Awesome.
It's great. Now the Sora's brothers were happy and painted, it was time to discover the next activity. Derek paid for him and his brothers. Have a good day. You too, Xavier. Your group gave one final round of thank yous to Xavier before moving on from the stall. The flow of the crowd brought you all drifting down the boardwalk. As you traveled further in, you actually spotted your parents. The Sura's boys jumped and waved, and their dad did exactly the same thing across the way. Next to him, Miss Soros tried hiding her ear-to-ear grin with her hands. Your moms had their heads close together, laughing at Miss Soros' action. You waved quietly. All the commotion had you blushing in comparison to the Sarah's family. You were shyly waving, and you simply hoped that your moms could find you amongst the crowd. Knowing that you and Elizabeth had to be close by, your mom scanned over the unfamiliar people until they found you. They both waved back cheerfully. Then your parents continued on their own adventure. Your group traveled further down the boardwalk. You browsed a long row of shops, pointing out all the interesting things on sale. As the afternoon stretched on, your gang continued to enjoy the boardwalk. Elizabeth took long strides and led the pack, cutting her way through the crowd. Everyone was willing to follow her. The Sewers brothers were giving her some leeway since it was her first time there, and you used your older sister's attitude. And you were used to your older sister's attitude. She was making a beeline for the roller coaster, the singular big kid ride of the boardwalk, and nothing was going to stand in her way. You kept up with Elizabeth and walked alongside her. hung with Derek and the boys, yeah. You hung back with Derek, George, and Nicholas. Elizabeth was fine on her own, and you weren't just there for the rides. You wanted to spend time with your friend. Nicholas had stopped holding on to Derek, instead flittering around on his own. Derek continued to keep a sharp eye on him. He occasionally pursed his lips when Nicholas was on the cusp of wandering further away than safely allowed. You watched the little boy as well. His attention wasn't nearly as single-minded as Elizabeth's. He eventually started to lag, unable to keep up with Elizabeth's breakneck pace. Nicholas toddled at the end of the group, slowing his pace, falling behind, then bursting forward to catch back up. It happened on repeat. His eyelids dropped and his head bobbled forward. There was an expression of vacant determination on his face. It was a special kind of stubbornness only the youngest people in society could muster. The type where the concept of stopping wasn't just ignored. It flat out didn't exist in their minds. Luckily for Nicholas, he had more self-aware big brother who could set limits for him. Hey, let's sit down for a second. What? It's a long walk, especially if you've got small legs. So you mean for you? That's right. No need to take. I do need to take a break. Derek willingly accepted Elizabeth's shot at his statue. You could guess why he easily based his leaning tone. If Derek wanted to rest, Nicholas would want to too. Derek scanned the area and pointed out some tables in the distance. Elizabeth glanced at the path headed once, but didn't argue about changing course. She picked an empty table and looked to be the cleanest of the selection. Everyone took a seat with a marked preference for sitting under the shaded half. You grabbed your water bottle and took a long, refreshing drink. It remained reverently cool on your tongue. Derek hefted Nicholas up to his lap. His brother wiggled slightly until he found a comfortable position. Chippy has the right idea. It's water time. Nicholas gave no audible response. His eyes were completely closed, however. He did accept the water Derek placed into his hands. He sipped it sluggishly. Unfortunately, Nicholas tipped the water bottle upwards until it started to spill.
Oops.
Derek snatched the bottle back and chuckled. Nicholas opened his eyes slightly, barely perturbed by getting splashed. He rubbed his wet face on Derek's shirt and stayed resting against his chest. Derek patted his head and had to admit it was cute. Elizabeth and George drank their water too, side-eyeing the scene but not saying a word. You followed Elizabeth and George's example and slightly observed Nicholas. He swayed and Derek wrapped an arm around him before he could fall over. It was a noticeable difference from how hyper the kid had been earlier. Neither of his brothers were surprised by his drowsiness. George finished his drink with a final chug. He inclined his head towards his two brothers. Nicholas is going to fall asleep. Elizabeth twisted the cap back on her bottle. She was ready to go. What now? Nicholas left out a small, stiffy-nosed snore. Derek looked down at his clearly sleeping little brother. But it was no issue for Derek. He brushed it off as easily as Elizabeth's insult. It's cool. I'll find our parents and they can look after Nico while he naps. Mom and Dad won't mind taking him along since he's down for the count. They're probably at one of the restaurants or browsing the store or something. Elizabeth nodded, glad that it wouldn't be her problem. George appeared more hesitant.
Okay.
He peeked at Elizabeth and then back to you. Derek smiled reassuringly and continued to pitch his plan. Sorry about that.
Anyway.
Plus, Elizabeth wanted to ride the roller coaster. It should have to sit back with Nicholas anyway, since he's too short for it. It just makes sense for you three to do that while I'm dropping off Nicholas. So get that ride and I'll catch up later. George sighed. He was being left behind thanks to Nicholas. But was placid enough to not argue with his older brother. Okay. Thank you, Derek. I appreciate it. Thank you, Derek. Derek did a double take trying to figure out if she was serious. You gave him a subtle nod from your interpretation. Elizabeth did mean her thank you. It was just her perpetual lukewarm tone that made it come across as sarcastic. Derek's mouth twitched into a grateful smile at Elizabeth. Interpretation services.
Bye.
Bye. He winked at you.
Talk to you later.
See you soon. Then Derek shifted Nicholas around so the kid was firmly dozing in his arms. He hopped up from the bench. Nicholas didn't stare at all as you watched Derek shuffle away as speedily as he responsibly could, carefully not to jostle his brother too much. They both disappeared into the hustle and bustle of the crowd. Nicholas really must be able to sleep anywhere. George frowned when he lost sight of his brothers. He snuck another nervous glance at Elizabeth. Your sister's arms were folded across her chest, and her brows were pinched. While also typical for her, to George, it probably appeared like she was incredibly annoyed. You smiled welcomely at George. He slunk closer to you, more at ease around your friendliness. Then Elizabeth, apparently unapproachably, it seemed as though playing Elizabeth's smoother over might become a regular gig. Alright, since you two decided to stay with me, I have the responsibility to make sure neither of you get lost. She placed her hands on her hips and squirreled mostly at George, but you weren't completely safe either.
Right?
You better not run off. I'm riding that roller coaster. Okay. I hear you. You felt your posturing was mostly for George's sake, but she had always enjoyed bossing you around. Good. With her authority recognized, she finally smiled, filled with a childish excitement that you rarely saw from her anymore. Elizabeth bounced on her feet. But I changed my mind. It's alright to run off, just as long as it's the right way. Just as long as it's the right way, move it. Okay. She rushed ahead, and both of you and George had to go from 0 to 100 to catch up with her. After the initial burst of speed, she decreased the pace gradually. She may have been in a hurry, but didn't actually want to ditch you. It was a fun chase across the boardwalk. All of you were sped up, walking as fast as possible. Given Elizabeth's haste, you soon reached the line for the roller coaster. It was long enough for you had been more enough time to catch your breath. Elizabeth raised her hand over her eyes as she looked up, trying to see the high track of the roller coaster despite the sun's glare. She was thrilled. I'm gonna sit as close to the front as possible.
Yeah.
Oh? She was surprised at his sudden eagerness. She approved.
Okay.
And you could sit by me. George smiled shyly and inspected the pavement below him. Yeah, I'm gonna do this one. I'm gonna throw my hands in the air. Good for you. I'm not gonna hold on tight either. You get it. The line plodded along. The family's various teenage fan groups filled forward every time the roller coaster returned. It was a test of patience in the heat of the summer afternoon. Still, there was a grand reward at the other side, and eventually the three of you reached the loading station. Elizabeth and George rushed towards the front of the car as soon as the roller coaster attendant gave them a nod. They managed to get seats only a couple rows from the top. You sat behind them and buckled in. Like Nicholas and his brother sat in his booster seat. An attendant went through each person, verifying they were strapped in and safely. The roller coaster past inspection was cleared to go. It slowly started to pulling upward, heightening your anticipation. Up, up, and up. The car crept forward. You gripped your handbar, bracing for what would come. It went over the crest, and when you whooshed down the first hill, the wind rushed past you. It felt like falling. You tossed your hands up and laughing at at the cheer of it. Screams filled the air. Shrieks of joy, terror, and everything in between. The roller coaster curved around, went back up and down again, racing through several smaller hills and valleys. Turn this heat up. Too hot now. The wooden track jostled around so much it chattered your teeth in your head. You never knew what punch it would hit you with next. But too soon you felt the momentum slow and your surroundings grew familiar. The coaster puttered to a stop back in the station. The safety bar was released and your shaking hands left over your head. Then the skin of your face was tight and sensitive in the best way, tingling from the rush that ended only moments ago. Elizabeth distinctly watched George to make sure he didn't need help before standing up. The three of you followed the exit signs. The three of you followed the exit signs back to the boardwalk, energized, expressions all around. George skipped beside you and Elizabeth. That was cool. Elizabeth nodded as she smoothed down her frizzled out hair. It wasn't bad. Her grin held more enthusiasm than you'd seen from her all week. It was awesome. There had been so much wishing you'd gone so fast you could ride that again and again. As the adrenaline began to settle down, you realized that your group wasn't actually walking in a particular direction. Elizabeth paused and peered back and forth, raising herself to her tiptoes as she searched. No Derek. She narrowed her eyes and her sly smile set off an immediate alarm bells. Let's go get cotton candy. What? She coolly waved off his surprise. Well, Nicholas was the one who wasn't allowed any more treats, right? Do you see him here? Or even Mr. Responsibility? We can do what we want now. And I want cotton candy. But isn't that unfair? Life's not fair, kid. Besides, what they don't know won't kill them. George blinked at her amusement. Her flat discarded of implied rules was enough to blow his mind. You wondered how childhood been for George growing up under Derek's rule, following example rather than, well, Elizabeth Elizabethness. Both of you might have been second children in your families, but you had very different older siblings paving the path ahead of you. George seriously considered her proposal, clearly thinking it through quietly, as if not wanting his words to spread beyond this group. He spoke. Can I have some? Yeah, you can. Her expression turned devious, pleased at her corrupting ways. She tilted her head towards you. Chippy? You nodded. Elizabeth shrugged and walked over to a nearby stall. She selected a huge bag stuffed with 3 clouds of puffy pink cotton candy and paid for it out of her own pocket money. After she paid, she ripped open the bag and dug out the first cotton ball for George. He accepted it, his eyes still wide. She handed you a chunk. It was light as air in your fingers, a bit sticky and smelled sweetly vanilla'd. Elizabeth took the last one for herself. She started tearing out a bit bite-sized tufts and placing them in her tongue. George happily took a large bite directly from his lump. You began eating yours as well. It was light, fluffy, and dissolved in your mouth. It's delicious. Elizabeth hummed in agreement, continued to eat at her treat. This worked out. For a time, everyone was content to enjoy the fullness treat and each other's company. Last bite was eventually eating, and it was time to wipe off the pink-stained fingers. Elizabeth weighted the empty plastic bag and tried to dunk it into a nearby trash can. The plastic immediately unfolded from its ball with a crinkle, and she missed. Your sister sighed, snatched it off the ground, and placed the sagging bag in the trash can directly. There were no signs left of the extra activity, and Derek hadn't returned to catch Elizabeth in the act. Where was he? You inspected the boardwalk for your friend's certain unfamiliar form. Despite how much time had passed, he wasn't back yet. We could try the roller coaster again. George shook his head defiantly.
No.
We should wait for Derek. He's gonna be coming. Elizabeth sighed but led the group closer to the sign posted across the front of the roller coaster. You didn't join the line, but stood under the massive advertisement to make yourselves easily noticeable.
Fine.
Here, there's no way he's gonna miss us now. Sorry about all the coughing. With that, you settled in to wait for Derek's return. The sky turned golden as the sun began to disappear under the horizon. You glanced out to the sea, and it looked as if the ocean was swallowing the day. Lights began to click on, and the already shining buildings of the boardwalk were set aglow. In that widening light, two boys with matching rainbow face paint emerged from the shadows. You found Derek in an unexpected carry-on. Wow, that stinks. Elizabeth ran a hand through her still frizzled hair as she stared at the snoozing Nicholas. George frowned, concerned. Derek spotted you and the group all headed towards each other. You met in the middle near the restaurant with mostly empty wreck of rental bikes. Hey everybody. He basically kicked a pebble by his feet. He chuckled and shrugged as if to say, yeah, the plan didn't work out. Sorry for taking so long. There was sort of a problem.
Duh.
Nicholas released a practically loud snort.
What?
Where are Mom and Dad? George's arms were around his chest. Derek readjusted his grip slowly and wondered how strong he was. It must have been getting difficult to hold Nicholas at that point. They're fine. It's just that they promised to meet later is all. It's not like we've been abandoned. George let his hands hang loose at his side, believing his brother before anyone could say anything else. Derek had a new idea to offer. I'm gonna hold Nicholas until it's time to go home. The rest of you can keep having fun. Go over wherever you want. George uncomfortably pulled at his shirt, stretching the fabric at its seams. I don't want to go. I want to help. He visibly felt bad about all this being put on Derek. You got the impression that George was a little bigger than that he'd offer to take a turn holding his baby brother instead?
No.
No, it's okay. I'll be fine. You really shouldn't waste all your time standing around with me. Plus, then who would help Elizabeth and Chippy around the boardwalk? They haven't been here before. You know, this place can make sure they don't get lost or don't miss the good parts. George turned to you and Elizabeth but hesitated with his answer. It would help me to know we didn't send them off alone. They're our guests, right? Okay. Thanks, George. Derek leaned closer to Elizabeth and whispered, I don't want George to miss out on the boardwalk because of Nicholas or because of me. Please go take him and have fun. Elizabeth and Derek made eye contact. For all you could figure, they had some sort of eldest sibling telepathy going on. That was the only way you could explain it, because rather than arguing, she agreed to work with Derek. I'll do it. Elizabeth then pressed her lips together and considered you. She snorted and then lightly flicked her nose. But I don't need Chippy with me. George isn't a pain. Derek's brows creased, not expecting that. Yeah, I'll stay with Derek. I thought so. Chippy? Derek's voice strangled and hushed.
You don't have to.
You don't have to do that. What about you? Why does it have to just be you? You could have suggested we take turns watching Nicholas. Derek shook his head and you felt your stubbornness spark.
It doesn't matter.
It's fine. Someone's gotta be here for Nicholas. And it's easiest if I do it. That's all. Well, now it's gonna be the easiest if we do it together.
Yeah, sure.
George, show me something interesting. George gulped but nodded. His gaze bounced between Elizabeth and your standoff with Derek. He wisely decided to take his leave. He led Elizabeth away, passing by assorted stalls. He seemed to have an idea of where he was going, so you figured he and your sister would probably have a good time. Derek shifted his weight from foot to foot, bouncing around like the floor was on fire. It got more panicked the further away your sister and his brother got without you. Chippy, you have to go. I found our parents. What? He kept babbling, hot-footedly hopping both at rapid pace. They rented bikes and were having a good time. I just couldn't ask them to take Nico. That's not your fault. It's all 'cause of me, and you shouldn't have to miss out because of that. You have to go have fun. You were shocked to hear this revelation. He chose to keep Nicholas. But you shouldn't have been surprised. Of course, he didn't stop his parents from having fun. That was exactly what Derek would do. And that was what Derek was trying to do now with you. I'm still staying. When the other two were completely out of sight, Derek stopped his frantic movement, having spent all his excess nervous energy. You met his gaze head on, staring at the friend who completely couldn't help himself being helpful. His face changed into something tense and small. You wondered how many times he did this. Took all the responsibility so that others didn't have to be bothered. It didn't seem like he was called out on it too much. Slowly he smiled. His grin was tender enough to be genuine. Well then, if you're going to be here anyways, we don't have to make ourselves miserable. It's you and me and, well, Nicholas time. Yeah.
Alright.
Alrighty. He lifted Nicholas higher and stood tall, ready to take on the world. Then his knees buckled and he blushed. Can we sit down somewhere? Yeah, it's probably a good idea. After spending all that time searching high and low while carrying around his brother the whole time, Derek needed a break. You both dragged yourselves over to a nearby bench. It was thankfully empty and away from the crowd. Derek took a heavy seat, exhaled deeply. He kept Nicholas clenched closer to his chest. It was a familiar motion, one that Derek must have done hundreds of times before. I get why Nicholas is so attached to you. I mean, you're probably there for him as much as his mom and dad. It'd be hard for Nicholas to not be as attached to you as he is.
Maybe?
Oh, maybe. He appeared surprised at your observation, unsure how to respond. He leaned his head back and whispered to the sky. I don't think that's such a bad thing. You weren't so sure what to make of that. He wasn't lying, but looked too sad for it to be the full truth. He didn't say any more about it. After you both settled, Derek carefully reached into his pocket. He struggled digging around to find what he was searching for. He pulled out his special snack baggie in triumph. It was still completely full, untouched from this morning. Derek tried to pick out some morsels from the bag, but it was even harder to keep Nicholas from flopping over. Let me help. Derek flushed at your offer and became self-conscious over the fact that you noticed his difficulty.
Thanks.
Despite his embarrassment, he passed the snacks to you. You took the bag and steadily studied his hold on Nicholas. Oh, I just need the granola chunks. You can leave the other stuff in there, and just some of it would be good. Is that your favorite? Yeah, but no. You squinted at him in confusion. He laughed cheekily, having expected your reaction. It's my favorite snack in the bag, but that's not the reason. It went. I want it. The other stuff isn't for me. There's a handful of cereal Nicholas secretly likes. That way he can have something that's not candies and cookies. I brought walnuts for George in case we were out too long and he got hungry, and he dropped his gaze from you shyly.
Honestly,
The peanuts are for you, because maybe you'd get hungry too. That's 4 handfuls. Well, I could always share mine with you. I don't mind doing that. That's so nice of you. Dirk always thought of others a lot. Giving up 3/4 of his snack bag showed just how much.
no worries.
It's nothing. His tone was bright at your encouragement. Do you want any peanuts? You you can take it. You nodded and accepted. Derek beamed more happily to share. His planning had come in handy. You appreciated the snack. You carefully fished out some chunks of granola. They slightly sticky to touch. You popped them into Derek's outreached hand.
Thank you.
He popped one of the tiny oak clusters into his mouth and started chewing. You wanted to eat and share your own snacks with Derek. Yeah, let's do that. That's what I was thinking. Yeah. You found your baggie, unzipped it, and you started snacking along with Derek. Every so often, you'd pluck out some more granola from Derek's bag and passed it over between bites. Want some? You had out your baggie in place where you could just pour it out for Derek if he said yes. His eyes lit up in amusement as he considered your snacks.
Definitely.
That'd be great. Sharing is caring. You tipped some snacks out of your bag for Derek, and he gratefully munched on them. Both of you leisurely enjoyed the time. The bench was comfortable, the food delicious, and the scenery was busy enough. There was always something to watch. The munching and high-pitched snoring served as the only sounds between you and you for a while. You passed Derek the last cluster of granola. You had to really try to get it out of the bag around all the cereal and walnut chunks. He accepted it with great enthusiasm, then took his final bites. He swallowed, satisfied. He absentmindedly patted Nicholas's head as he peered up and down the street. Something caught his eye and he lit up. You know, I was so focused before I kind of forgot where we were. This is still the boardwalk. He was excited as he had been towards the meaning of the day.
Let's go.
Want to walk around? There's a lot of interesting stuff here if we're only looking. Yeah, that sounds nice. Derek gave you a thumbs up and then hemmed at Nicholas. Can you help me move him to my back? That'll be easy for a long haul. You stood up to help it take both of you fumbling around, but with effort you were able to get the little boy comfortably on Derek's back. Then you lifted the bench behind to explore the bustling waterfront park. Without consciously deciding to, you gravitated to the edge of the path closest to the sea. You studied the beautiful ocean, your breath almost taken away by how the water sparkled under the last flickers of sunlight. The evening remained pleasantly warm despite the encroaching darkness. Is it normal for Nicholas to fall asleep like this? Kind of. Sometimes something is so exciting that Nicholas bounces off the walls just imagining it. By the time he actually gets there, he's already burnt himself out. I'm pretty sure Nico didn't sleep at all last night because he knew today was going to be Boardwalk Day. Will he be upset that he slept through the day when he wakes up? I promise he'll be alright. Nico isn't great at imagining what he might have done if things didn't went different. He lives in the moment. So as long as he wakes up on his own, he won't be a grouchy monster. Just so you know, we got cotton candy after the roller coaster.
Cool.
Nice. But wait, even George? He had a whole chunk. He snorted and shook his head. I disappear and you all become rebels? Walking down the boardwalk was peaceful. The conversation was easy with the occasional giggle. The other groups of people passed by. Couples, young friends, groups, and families with children all bustled about. You caught slivers of conversations ranging from the mundane to philosophical. Oh. Derek glanced at the faces around him and grinned to himself. It kind of feels like we're parents and this is our kid. He twisted around to show you Nicholas with amusement. Oh yeah, our next trip should be to a wedding chapel. I bet that would be fun. Nicholas could be the ring bearer. Would he stay awake for it? Maybe, maybe not. You both laughed at the absurdity. As he led you down the boardwalk, you noticed a new skip in his step. Hey, I have an idea. Let's ride the Ferris wheel. We officially given up on getting our parents, and even Nico can do that. Yeah. That would be perfect. Derek let out a whoop, turned around like it was a little happy dance. You laughed, charmed by his enthusiasm. You're gonna wake Nicholas if you keep that up. Even if I did, we'd drag him to the Ferris wheel anyways. That'd rock him back to sleep. You smirked. Derek had an answer for everything. You both eagerly made your way through the crowd to get in line for the ride that was an option for you. Derek cautiously waved past people, making sure no one accidentally bumped into Nicholas on the way. The line was short. It didn't take long for you to start boarding the ride. You piled into the cabin and Derek placed Nicholas in the corner of the middle bench. He sat next to him. Nicholas snuffled. When he was jolted, he didn't wake. Derek wrapped his arm around him to secure him from falling forward. Nicholas unconsciously leaned his head over to rest on him. You rested on the bench across from them, eye to eye with Derek. It felt sturdy. It felt sturdy underneath you. It felt sturdy under you. Excuse me. Derek's grin widened and he tapped his toes together as he waited for the ride to start. It did. The carriage car rocked forward. Slowly you ascended into the sky. You could see the entire expanse of the Boardwalk from the cabin. It was an amazing sight from this height. The stalls and decorations looked like a magical land of toys. You glanced at Derek, curious if he was enjoying the view too. The sun had continued to sink as the Ferris wheel rose, and the light that reached inside the cabin through the little window was low. Sharp edge shadows cut across Derek's body. He'd stopped shuffling his feet and switched to tapping a finger against the top of his knee in a jittery, uneven beat. With Nicholas still sound asleep, it felt like you were alone with Derek. He smiled at you in a good humor across the way, but there was an undercurrent of that nervousness that and the shake of his hand had betrayed it. In the small space high in the air, with no one else anywhere around, Derek took the chance to open up to you. So, Chippy, wanna hear something kind of embarrassing about me? Only if you want to tell me.
Okay.
Derek claps unclaps his hands like he was working over his bread dough. The bashful whisper of his tone made his secret hard to catch. Well, this is sort of thing is kind of like a dream or something that I've got. You waited for him to explain. Derek shifted shyly. His head went low, but his eyes glanced up at you. Then, when Derek spoke again, it was in a tiny voice. I'm talking about having somebody who's there when stuff is like this. When stuff like this happens. Your eyebrows shot up, but the rest of your body froze in place. Derek timely sunk down in his seat. He brushed his little brother's bangs away from his closed eyes. It was a nervous, monetary distraction. Nicholas offered him some emotional support just by being there. I like thinking about people I love. I really seriously do like doing stuff that makes me happy. I don't want to have to stop doing any of that, even though it's annoying sometimes. Annoying for me and whoever tries to stick with me. He showed an apologetic grin for a moment before his intense earnestness returned. Derek tightened his hands into his fists.
I don't know.
But I don't want to have to make that better by doing more for myself and less for them. What I really want is for someone who's there for me, then it be even. My family cares about me, obviously, but a lot of the time that's the thing I need help with. With a laugh, Derek liberally tousled the hair of the beloved pain of his side. He laid there, the youngest brother remaining blissfully unaware of the trouble he caused. The humor in his tone left Derek as quietly as it appeared. He couldn't get away from how serious the topic was, or how much it truly meant to him. It'd be cool to have somebody who was on my side and who liked me because of me, not because they're family or supposed to love me. For a single instant, his eyes met yours, but then he instantly focused on the world outside the scuffled, clouded window of the old Ferris wheel. You could see a lopsided grin reflected in the glass. Don't tell my bros. Don't tell my bros. I imagine some pretty dumb things. I think this one is the right one to say. Do you have to do that? I'm here for you whenever you need it.
Ah!
Thanks. The foggy face could make out in the window pane trembled. He wasn't ready to show you it directly, but you were glad you still got a glimpse of it. He grasped the top of one knee and took a deep breath through his nose. When he exhaled, he carefully laid out a few more words for consideration. Hey, Chippy, is there somebody that you think? Without thinking, you leaned forward towards him. You were hanging on his words like the cabin you were seated in was suspended from the wheel. But he never placed the last part.
Forget it.
Never mind, forget it. Wait, I want to know what you were going to say. Sorry, but don't worry about that. It was just this idea I've been kicking around, but I should probably think about it a lot more besides. Derek shrugged an arm and cocked his head down to the extra bit of company who was still gently snoring. It's kind of awkward to talk about all this personal stuff with my baby brother right here, even if he is asleep. He chuckled good-naturedly, moving his hand to scratch hit behind his ear. Maybe I can try again later. The back of his foot knuckled against the lower wall of the uncropping metal seat on repeat. It sounded the end of that conversation, but that didn't mean nothing else was on his mind. Derek was always considering something, and most of the time it was other people, things, someone else might have missed or forgotten, wasn't taken for granted by him. Thanks for helping with the snacks before. That piece of appreciation was given easily. The next, though, was far meeker.
And thanks for coming with me.
Thanks for letting me come with you. This time Derek shared his bright, bashful face directly with you. You could always count on him. That was a certainty, and Derek knew that. The statement was mutual. You could look out for him whenever he needed it for himself or not. Whether he asked you to or not, and whether he wanted you to or not. That was just as sure. Not as much as was said before. The ride came to its steady, inevitable end. You disembarked from the cabin with Nicholas securely on Nicholas's arms. He strolled from the exit to the nearest stall to ask the employee what time it was. 8 p.m. was quickly approaching. We better go to meet up to the meetup place. You can help me get Nico on my back again. Can you help me get Nico back on my back again? How about I carry him now?
Oh!
Instinctively, Derek pulled back. He clung tighter to his youngest brother, keeping the weight of the burden squarely on himself. You waited, calm and stable. Ultimately, the tension in his face and hesitantly in his heart faded, and he accepted your offer graciously. That'd actually be great. Thanks, Chippy. Derek shifted his grip on Nicholas before he popped the small boy over your shoulders. You tucked your eyebrows around Nico's, in your elbows around Nico's knees, and hunched over so he wouldn't slip off. Nicholas draped heavily on your back like a fluffy car patterned cape. He really wasn't that heavy, but you could easily imagine how carrying that extra load could get tiresome after a while. Derek definitely needed a break. Perfect. Together, you wandered across the path. The people surrounding you were full of enthusiasm, blustering with from the ride to ride and store to store. But a quiet peace settled between you and Derek. I gotta blow my nose. Did I read this part already? Sure. Okay. Together you wandered across the path. The people surrounding you were. Oh, yeah. Never mind. Your day at the Boardwalk was already coming to an end. The sky had gone completely dark by the time you reached the meeting spot. But the world around you was still awash with light. Street lamps bore down on you and Derek headed at the side of the path. You wanted to stay out of the way of visitors who were trickling off to the parking lot and the ones who were rushing to the opposite way for a last-minute excursion on the boardwalk. You hoped the strangers enjoyed themselves, but you and Derek plus sleeping Nicholas, there was nowhere to go. At least not until you caught sight of your currently missing family members.
I figured.
We beat them. I'm not surprised. You used your break as an opportunity to readjust Nicholas. He started to slide a bit during the trip over. Since there was only two awake members of your group, you both wordlessly kept your eyes peeled. Every figure approaching in the distance was scrutinized and then discarded as just another stranger. That process repeated for a few minutes, but eventually two forms showed coming down the path, stepped under the light, and you immediately recognized them. George, Elizabeth. Derek jumped, waved in his hands over his head. He was entirely free to draw attention to himself. That way, thanks to you taking over piggybacking Nicholas. Even on the other end of the boardwalk, you could tell Elizabeth was smirking. When Derek's brother and your sister rejoined you in front of the first stall, you were proven right. She definitely had a lurking smirk. She good at face painting? Looks like it. It's very cute that you're taking turn with the precious baby. Huh? Derek barked a laugh. Elizabeth's smile wasn't the only notable thing on her face. Even Derek wasn't polite enough to let her get away with it. Maybe, but what's that on your forehead? The oldest kid hadn't returned exactly the same way you left her. She now had a bright white golf ball emblazed on her skin with non-toxic water-soluble paint. Yeah, she got the face for me. I like your new look. After just a small huff, Elizabeth plainly laid out her case. George and I talked a little about sports we liked. When I told him I did golf, he suggested I get face paint of that. I did it. It was fun. I did, and it was fun. Her chin was high, and she spoke with defiance. Elizabeth absolutely refused to be embarrassed or change of mind. George stood at your sister's side and probably took credit for the accomplishment. She didn't want to do it before because she was just being Elizabeth Brat. Huh?
Nice try.
Rather than being a porgy. George and Elizabeth chuckled at the grips. Apparently, they had unique nicknames for one another. Now, it left Derek nearly speechless.
Wow.
Clearly, you and Derek weren't the only ones who went through bonding experience this evening. I'm glad you had fun. What else did you think would happen? You had a lot of unfortunate scenarios. You couldn't imagine, but someone beat you to the punch when it came to saying it out loud. That you'd act too cool for everything, and George would sit around sad all day.
Rude.
Well, that's rude, and it didn't happen. And that's why you're glad. Lighthearted laughter drifted around the group. Whatever you divided up all together, the Soras and Prince kids enjoyed each other's company. Your sister then exhaled calmly and followed it with a sage nod. I'll take Nicholas now. Oh? Whenever Derek was going to agree or disagree with the offer, you didn't know, but Elizabeth didn't give him a chance. She wasn't suggesting that he thought she was. She wasn't suggesting what he thought she was. We've got like 10 or 15 minutes left, and the two of you should use it.
What?
What? You want us to leave him with you? Uh-huh. Derek took a hesitant step back toward, turned his face away. His expression tensed the way, some way it realized Nico was going to be asleep for the rest of the trip. Nicholas is going to be mad if I'm not there. The resistance was weak, mumble, and his middle brother spoke with much more boldness. Nicholas isn't going to know, and what he doesn't know won't kill him. George. Derek was at a loss where that had come from. He had missed Elizabeth's life lesson earlier. Derek, let's go for it.
Hurry up.
See, even your darling Chippy wants to stop being such a goody two-shoes for a single second. Go have fun, for Pete's sake. Yeah, hurry. You have to do stuff at the boardwalk while we're at the boardwalk. He shyly scuffled a sneaker on the ground, and with the doe-eyed expression that was more expected from Nicholas. It was extremely rare for someone to tell Derek what the plan was. He was used to coming up with all the ideas and taking charge. Derek glanced at you. It was it was impossible not to smile at him.
All right.
Alright, I'll do it. Me too. Finally. There was a quick passing of the buck. Elizabeth took Nicholas into her hands. She carefully positioned his head against her shoulder and cradled his legs under her forearms. Derek found the hold satisfactory and entrusted his youngest brother to her the same way he'd let her borrow the responsibility of watching out for George. No more time was wasted. We shot down the boardwalk one more time. The flow of traffic shifted even more when you started waiting for everyone to set free, moving forward to the exit, towards the exit. You pushed against the tide into the heart of the park. were sprinting hand in hand. The two of you had reached for the other on instinct in the heat of the chase, neither wanting to be separated in the crowd, you both yearning to be close as possible. Your feet and heart had beating hard. Derek shouted over the sound in a breathless, thrilled voice. The lines are all gonna be short at this late, but I don't think we can do two. Which one do you want to do? Or we don't have to go on a ride at all. Let's hit the roller coaster.
Okay.
Joy in his chair betrayed how disappointed he must have really been to miss out on the roller coaster before. He had put on a brave face before in the end and had the chance to get his due reward. You would make certain that he got that ride. You and Derek sped straight to your goal. You couldn't help but tilt your head back every so often as the roller coaster loomed closer. I'm gonna turn the heat back on. Sorry about that. As Derek had theorized, the line wasn't even half the length it was for most of the day. It only took a few minutes before you were on the platform and awaiting your ride. You jumped into the cart along with Derek and pulled the safety bar down in front of you. He was bursting with anticipation, so the restraints were especially useful. A chuckling sound like the wondering of a clock chimed out. The ride began its gradual climb upward. It reached the summit, and after apparently stomach-tightening pause, it rolled over the edge. Cool summer air rushed over your face and whipped your hair as you descended at breakneck speed. Derek threw his arms into the air and he squealed in delight. Wahoo! You were jostled in your seat, vibrating with the motion of the roller coaster, Derek, and you took turns knocking into other around every bend. When you came to the jarring stop back at the station, you lifted off the restraint together and made your exit down the other side of the ride. Derek ruffled his hands through his hair and straightened out his characteristic spikes. He was absolutely beaming on the way out. Derek stared at the sparkling stars beyond the glitz and clamor of the boardwalk There was a peace between you and that hadn't been there at any other moment during your trip.
Phew.
Hey, eyes had stolen and shined from the cosmos when he placed his gaze back on you. It was way too awkward to talk about this before with my brother right there, but I just want to say I really like hanging out with you, Chippy. I love my brothers and parents a ton, and my other friends are great too, but when I have to pick someone to team up with, I think about you. He shrugged his shoulders with a shy grin. Derek was someone you could count on for honesty, but sometimes it still surprised you when he was capable of it. I think of you too. Oh, cool. There was no haste or worry of separation, but Derek's hand still found its way around yours. You threaded your fingers together with his. The soft touch squeezed your heart even more than your hand. Getting the chance to spend some time with truly just the two of you was more than you could have hoped for. You owe Elizabeth one. Despite taking an entire extra jaunt around the boardwalk, you still arrived at the entrance before your parents. However, there had been a shift in the group. Nicholas was awake. As soon as Derek noticed the small third figure standing by Elizabeth and George, he started like he was hit by a bolt. You felt him squeeze his fingers around your hand. In his stunned state, he made a break for his siblings, bringing you along with him. The motion was exactly Sibyl. It caught the attention of the boy in question. He let out a shout when he saw your rapid approach. Technically, it wasn't your arrival that had an impact.
Derek's back!
Nicholas sprouted away from the meeting spot, not willing to wait a single second for the reunion. He crashed into Derek, wrapping his arms around his brother's thighs and sticking his head in the space between Derek's legs. Oof. It was powerful enough to knock Derek off balance. He had to release your hand so he could swing his arm out to the side to stop his wobbling. Once he was sure he wasn't going to topple over, Derek bent down and scoped up his hanger on. Seeing Derek carrying Nicholas felt extremely familiar by this point, considering that he had been the case the entire afternoon. But Derek wasn't sick of it yet. He could handle it for a little longer. Derek nudged his head towards the other two members of your party, encouraging you to come. Together, you and Derek walked the rest of the way to the Boardwalk entrance, while Nicholas clung onto Derek the whole way. George waved you over.
Welcome back.
Hey. In the moment you were in whispering distance, you were greeted by a hushed message from your own big sibling. Good work. She put a finger on her cheek and smirked suggestively. It caused you for a second. It confused you for a second before you realized she had seen you holding hands from a distance. Derek slowly kneeled to let Nicholas get down. The little boy stood on his own 2 feet, but his 2 hands didn't detach. They only grasped the hem of Derek's jersey instead. Brushing his brother's messy hair, Derek glanced up at Nico's temporary babysitters. He stared at them quite personally. What happened was the unspoken question. He's only been up for a few minutes.
Yeah.
And he was really grumpy at first because you weren't there. But we got him talking about the dream adventure he had when he was sleeping to keep him busy, and that worked. It was really funny, and Nico had a good time too. George beamed with pride at the success, and you noticed how much closer he stood to Elizabeth. Your sister accepted his company just as welcomely. They were their own partners in crime for the day.
Right.
I'm basically positive that after 5 seconds he stopped telling us his actual dreams and was making it all up. But it was cute. Derek winked at the two as if he had witnessed a miracle. It kind of was in a small way. He was able to pass the mantle and responsibility, and everything turned out fine. However, Elizabeth and George wouldn't be replacing Derek anytime soon, or likely ever. Nicholas may have behaved for a bit, but now that his biggest brother was here, the young lad wanted to be taken care of. His gaze dropped to the ground as he pulled at the end of Derek's shirt. Derek, my tummy hurts. I want an ice cream. No ice cream, Nico. That's gotta help. That's not gonna help your stomach.
But
But you can have some of my snacks. I say part of it. Derek's tone really sold the idea. It was full of apparel of fact it was his snacks. He could hype up product better than any of the employees running games on the boardwalk. Nicholas brightened. Immediately he clutched his own collar and leaned his head way back to look up at his brother's face from where he stood against Derek's legs. He wasn't kept waiting long. Derek pulled the baggie out of his pocket and sifted through the mix of walnuts and cereal to pick out the treat especially chosen for Nico. Once he collected a small handful, he passed it over to Nicholas, carefully dropping the round cereal puffs one by one in Nicholas's tiny palm. The amount was almost overflowing. Nicholas gratefully received the offering. He shoved the whole thing into his face and ate directly out of his hand. It reminded you of feeding oats to a pony, except in this case, Nicholas was both the feeder and the fed. Derek nodded in his satisfaction and rolled the bag over to his palm. George, these are for you. He gathered the two wayward pieces of cereal, then offered the well-worn bag of nothing but walnuts to the middle child. It's been a really long day and there's still the ride back. You should eat something. George didn't argue with that. He gladly accepted his brother's thoughtful gesture.
thank you.
Thanks. George plucked it out just from the pack. The hardest looking nut in the bunch, and took a bite of it. His gaze shifted towards Elizabeth, as George knew her, as he swallowed his snack. Then he asked a question. Do you want any?
Thanks.
You know what? I would, thanks. Elizabeth was the third person who took a turn of opening a hand to receive a snack. George snuck a few nuts into her waiting palm. Derek, you and Chippy can have some too. Nicholas' fingers reminded pushed against his mouth, but his distinct chomping stopped. He spoke muffled words fluttered through a handful of half-crushed cereal.
Okay.
I can share too. He stuck his sticky palm towards Derek's face instead of his own. The gesture had crumbs cascading down from his shirt. Nico couldn't reach high enough to get it all the way to his brother's mouth. Derek shook with giggles and poked Nicholas's wrist to nudge the pile of soggy cereal away. He had to take a second to breathe before he could explain himself. I've got some of the cereal right here. That'll be from you. Thanks, Nicholas. I'm gonna eat it. That logic seemed sound to Nicholas, or maybe just seeing his brother smile made Nicholas smile too. Either way, he sipped it. That not taking more of the cereal counted as him sharing it. But he wasn't done. Nicholas turned around on a dime, arm still outreached, and positioned his hand towards you. Amazingly, he wanted to share with someone other than Derek. You kiddos are all way too nice. You matched Derek and laughed. You knew he was trying to be nice, but it was just hilarious. Before Nicholas could start flinging bits of cereal at you in his eagerness to share, a warm voice boomed above the din of the busy boardwalk. Good evening, family and friends. It was Mr. Soares, and not only him you spotted, all four of the parents weaving their way through the crowd. We're here. The sight of his mommy and daddy made Nicholas forget all about feeding you and his pre-chewed snack. He smashed the remaining cereal to his mouth so he could use both of his hands to wave at his parents. Dad, Mom, Derek called back with equal excitement. Parents picked up the pace and came together around their children. Greens were shared between adults and kids. Immediately, Mom noted the face paint that was now adoring your group.
Wonderful.
Those look wonderful. So creative. Nicholas forced himself to show the mouthful. This was the moment he'd been waiting for. He sucked in a huge breath, painted his cheek, and cheered. Rainbow.
That's good.
Oh, you're right. It's a rainbow. It's beautiful, Nico. Nicholas giggled gleefully at the praise from the grown-ups. Miss Suarez then claps her hands together and changed the topic. Well, everyone, I'm sorry you beat us here. Hopefully you weren't waiting too long.
This is gonna be great.
Yeah, it was fine.
I appreciate it.
I appreciate you waiting for us. We went on a very lovely bike ride across the boardwalk.
Really?
You were out there pedaling around on bikes? Elizabeth and George's faces of genuine surprise at the news helped to distract from the awkward, knowing glances you shared with Derek. Returning them was a real hassle. That's why we got here late. Definitely worth it, though. It was. And did you children have a good day? Nicholas threw his hands in the air to answer with full force. Yeah. Derek softly patted his little brother's hand. His voice was much quieter and just relieved. Yeah. You, George, and Elizabeth nodded and offered your own points of argument. It might not have gone as you imagined, but none of you would consider it a waste of time. It was an experience worth having.
That's great.
I'm sure you made the most of what you had, but we better get going. It's very late, and perhaps we should pick dinner up on the way home. Absolutely. It's been hours since we left, and Nicholas can always sleep in the car since we won't be home before bedtime either way. All the kids except for Nicholas had their face go completely flat, and Elizabeth snorted. Miss Suarez didn't miss that instant reaction. She raised her brow. Derek straightened the bands of his wrist and broke the news to his mom. There was a glint of amusement in his eyes. Sorry, Mom. I didn't think that was going to happen. Nicholas remained obvious to the decision going on about him. He was leaping and bounding from the board to board, completely refreshed. His mother frowned. It was obvious to her that what had occurred. The servers flustered. She shared some dignified optimism.
Well then.
Well then, he'll be up to keep us company.
True.
True. We'll be together. Those words reached the small ears of the youngest person there. Nicholas held onto Derek's abdomen, liking the sound of that promise. His older brother looked down at him firmly.
Good job, team.
Glad to have you back, Nico and George. You're such a reliable girl. He wrapped one arm around Nicholas and reached over to pull his other brother into a hug. George welcomed and reciprocated the embrace. The Suarez trio snug together in tight squeeze, and their flicking face paint rubbed off on each other. Your gaze wandered from the public display of affection and went to your older sister. Elizabeth was definitely not a hugger, but you whispered your own siblingly appreciation for her. Thanks for the help before. She gave you a smug flip of her hair. You mean. I know. That was coming.
Let's go.
Let's go. That was all that was needed to be said. Your completed party took their final steps on the boardwalk. Heading straight toward the parking lot. Miss Suarez was leading the pack. Mom, hey Mom. Nicholas shouted and waved to get his mother's attention from behind while still using one hand to grip Derek. Guess what? Elizabeth carried me. She did. That's so considerate. Elizabeth.
Oh.
Elizabeth. Your moms were walking arm in arm, sharing hushed complimentary with each other over a distance from the group and tilting over what they heard. I carried you too when you were sleeping. Really? Yeah. Really? It was longer than Elizabeth did. Wow. I feel that who carried Nicholas the most today should get the biggest say in what we have for dinner.
My thoughts exactly.
I second that. Sounds fair to me. Then we all agree. I guess that means Derek will be our dinner decider for the night.
Maybe.
Probably. Derek scratched the rainbow off his cheek and chuckled. Apparently, he shrugged it without commitment and simply continued to walk. His little brother stayed at Derek's sides, and they bumped along together. You strolled with Elizabeth while the parents surrounded the sets of siblings at the front at the front and from behind. Derek's hands were full with Nicholas and George, but he snuck a frowned glance over to you. None of his excitement had faded. The night was still young and bright, and you knew you could count on every person there. Despite being miles away from Sunset Bird, you felt right at home. Well, and that's the end of that. That was a long these Derek DLCs are long compared to some of the moments that we had with Cove. Some of the moments we had with Cove were kind of short. Some of them were short. Well, there were some long ones, but there were some short ones too. But these were long. Anyway, our next DLC moment will be the soiree, like I said, and then after that we'll go to, and then the summer ended, and then we'll continue with more Derek DLC moments, of course. So we're gonna go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead and save right there. Maybe not. Okay, yeah. Maybe I should, yeah. Yeah, we'll save it right there. That's good. So, thanks again for watching on my YouTube channel. Don't forget to click the like button and the subscribe button. And don't forget to check out my Patreon account, and please become a Patreon contributing member. I'd really appreciate it. And so with the community of charities that need the funds, you would be doing a great thing by helping out those charities that need the funds by becoming a contributing member. And again, like I said, the funds don't come to me. I don't see a penny of it. It just goes directly to a charity that I choose from. A worthy charity, of course. And you can find the link to my Patreon within the description area below the video. So, our next video will be back on Camp Buddy Scoutmaster season, continuing with the Aiden route. I know we're getting pretty close to the end of that, hopefully. So, until next time, I will see you guys later.